Again to the Horton's channel, and welcome once more to the Royal Automobile Club in Pall Mall, London. We're here this evening for the Motoring Book of the Year Awards 2021. As you can see, it's a very well attended event, and in a few moments proceedings will start and we will know who has won in each category. After this, I shall be interviewing the winners and letting you know their thoughts. So welcome back to the library at the Royal Automobile Club. I'm here with one of the winners tonight, the co-author of Delage Record and Grand Prix, a book that I've really been championing. I think it's a fantastic publication. And thank you very much for coming all this way from France to the awards, and I'm glad it's been worth your while. Have you enjoyed the evening so far?
Of course, it was a very happy surprise. Of course, I didn't imagine. I was coming because it was the first time I was invited, and I knew I would meet a lot of nice people, but I honestly didn't expect to win the award because my co-author Daniel already won it a few years ago, and I was thinking, which is true, that we need some space for everyone, any authors, so it was really a happy surprise to win this award.
Well, as judges, we had to mull this through, that we knew he'd won an award, you know, fairly recently, but the book was so fantastic that we couldn't not nominate it for the winner of this award. And so, are there any more Delage books that will be out in the future that you're working on, or is this the end of the line?
There might be another one, not right now, because Daniel and I have our own also personal projects. Daniel is working on another book on Delage, not racing ones, but Delage is the last period of Delage when it was owned by Delage. And on my side, I'm working on a book dedicated to the French motorboats on the interwar period, the French racers. So we have to go to our own personal projects. And in a second time, we might come back to the Delage racing cars, covering the last remaining part, which is a pre-World War I period, with very interesting cars, horizontal valves, and the 1914 car, which was one of the first desmodromic cars also. All those cars have been then sold to the US, and there had been the victory at Indianapolis in 1914. So also exciting stuff with never published before documents. But that will be for in a few years from now, let's say.
Good. Well, I know there are only 700 copies of this printed, I believe, this book?
It's a bit more. Overall, 1,200.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know that the Delage Club took a large proportion.
Exactly, they took 200. So 1,000 is remaining. We sent a lot of those to magazines, clubs, just to get the book known. So I would say that apart from the Delage Club and those which have been sent to publications, there are slightly more than 900 which are in the
Well, I think we've sold nearly 100 copies.
Oh, really?
It had fantastic reviews in the magazines. And so this is a book that will not be in print for long, just as the first volume was not in print for long.
That's
so
right.
It's important to buy it when it's still at the published price.
I can only agree with what you say.
Well, this is a future classic. It's, the fact that it's won the award as well only backs that up. So thank you very much for your time, and I wish you success for the future.
May I raise also one question to
Yes.
you, maybe? If you had to assess this book versus other, because of course you are a specialist in those kind of books, if you had to put it in perspective with other, let's say, good books in motorsports, what would be the 1, 2 or 3 books you would think about which may range in the same type of, in terms of content, package, and also depth of investigation?
It's very difficult because what this book has is such depth in photographs and unseen images. There are many books that have, photographs that you will have seen many times, and this is one of the reasons I particularly like this book, because it's unseen images. So, it's really up there with the greats. I can't bring any to the forefront of my mind right now. You've kind of caught me on the hop, but for sure, this would be in my top 100 books of all time.
Oh, thank you very much. As you said, you appreciated a lot the unpublished pictures. To do justice, I have to specify that most of the pictures are coming from the collection of Daniel Cabas.
Yeah.
I was more oriented in the technical analysis of the car, of their influence and so on, but for the wonderful pictures, it's mostly coming from the collection of Daniel.
Well, thanks very much.
Thank you.
And I'm here with the authors of the Figoni book, which won their award this evening. This is the first book that you've produced off your own bat.
Yes, we are self-publishing, and I would be lying if I said it wasn't, or it hasn't been a steep learning curve, a very steep learning curve.
So is it a learning curve that means you're going to return to the normal format, or
No.
will you continue to do
No.
things your own way?
No, we've had some issues and some teething troubles. Like I said, it's been a learning curve. And for the next book, we will make sure that the mistakes we made are not repeated. And that's how we're going to continue.
Well, how do you feel? I don't want to retrace ground that was covered when you were interviewed on the stage, but how do you feel, for instance, when your second book, because your first book was the Talbot Largo book, your second book, Salchik, how do you feel now that that's selling for thousands of pounds?
It's not worth it.
Well, exactly.
Don't say that.
No, well, hey, you're the book dealer. I don't know how I feel. It's flattering, of course, that people attach such value to the book. But I wrote the damn thing, so it's difficult for me to have an opinion about that. And Ben and I had talked about that, and when I'm done with the book, I'm done with it.
Yeah.
And then I move on to the next book, and that's what occupies my mind.
Yeah.
And this is not deprecating what went on tonight, because of course, obviously, we are so proud of having won this book award. But this Alfa Romeo book is no longer what is occupying my mind. What is occupying my mind is the next book, which is about Bugattis that were bought by Figoni. So
And Delage and Delage.
And Delage and Delage and so on and so forth. I am, of course, constantly collecting information about Delages and Delays and Lagos and so forth that were bought by Figoni. But the focus is on Bugatti. So yes, I noticed that the Salchik book is sitting here on the shelf in this library. And again, of course it's flattering that I have a book that's in the library of the Royal Automobile Club. Of course it is. But I'm focused on the next book.
And how far along is the next volume?
Don't go there.
10%?
It is.
It's live for
It's
you,
moving along. We're going to France here on the 12th of November to visit with Pierre Gouget, who is the world's foremost Bugatti expert, I would say, and we're going to be doing research with him.
Yeah.
And we're working with Julius Kruta, and we're working with Mark Morris here in the UK. So we're working with really, really good people. The problem with with this coming book is that these were actually some of the earliest cars that Fagoni bodied. He opened the carrosserie in 1923, and in the beginning he was doing subcontract work for established carrossiers. And in late 1924, early 25, he started bodying the first Bugattis, and they were actually quite a lot of cars in a short space of time, because the orders were sent from le magasin, the big Bugatti sales organization in Paris. And there's not a lot of photo material. My big problem right now is that I have 31 chassis which I know were bodied by Fagoni, but I have no picture. I have nothing. And so this is what we're going to be working on that. And with this, as opposed to the Alphas, and also the Delages, which are pretty well documented, this is a situation where somebody dropped a very big bowl of spaghetti on the floor. And we have to take each strand of pasta and sort of line it up like that.
Yeah.
And it's a big work.
Well, that will placate a lot of my customers who have an insatiable appetite for books. Because the first thing I get is, can I have the same number of the Bugatti book? I said, well, hold on a minute, it's going to be a while.
Well,
And like you said, there may be more or less. We don't know.
no, but we I don't know how many we're going to print that one. And I must admit that travel became possible here in the last, or in August. And we've been going to Concours d'Elegance and living it up and having a good time.
As you should do.
Yes, as we should do. So,
Well, thank you for joining me, and congratulations on your
thank you.
success.
Yeah, we're
And
very
I
happy.
must say that I would buy that if you don't have the book, buy it soon, because this will be out of print within about 2 months. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ben.
So I'm here with Mark Hughes, who has won the Lifetime Achievement Award. You looked very shocked.
I was, Ben. I was completely nonplussed. Simon actually seemed to give an exceedingly lengthy introduction. And I don't know whether that was because I was sort of mindful from quite early on that sounded like me, but it seemed to go on forever. And as it went on, my heart started beating faster. So by the time I was up on the stage, I felt that I was pretty incoherent.
So were you invited? Would you have come to this evening had it not been for the award?
Oh, yes, definitely, because almost all my work, well, in fact, all my work now is with Eric Furdenroe at Evro Publishing, and we had 2 books shortlisted, so I would have been here anyway.
Yeah, well, that's good to know, and it's even better that you came out with something unexpected, so that's fantastic. And I mean, it was when we were trying to come up with a name, your name came to the forefront right away, almost from every single judge. So it was a fairly easy decision, and the motoring committee just had to verify that they were happy, and of course they were, and you're thoroughly deserving of it. After how many books have you worked on? 700 and...
Well, somebody asked me a few months ago, how many books do you think you've done? And I said, I don't know, 700-ish.
Yeah.
So it was a completely off-the-cuff response. I mean, it might be only 500.
Yeah.
But it might be 800, I don't really know.
But all motoring books?
Yes, a few have been about motorcycles, but all about our sphere. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I don't think I've ever done anything in any other sphere. I once thought maybe I would quite like to work for a history publisher, but I've ploughed my furrow ever since, and I've adored it.
And do you have many years left in you?
Well, I thought I had a few, but when you get this wonderful thing called a Lifetime Achievement Award, it sort of feels like maybe it's time to bow out and let someone else
If you're
come forward. No, I'm intending to do it for you.
Good.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
because the industry needs you, and we're very thankful for you. And I'm sure Eric is, because it makes his job of selling books a lot easier, and my job.
Well, we're a close-knit industry, and of course, we in the publishing side are very grateful to our excellent and splendid retailers like you. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you.
So here we are with the overall winner of the evening, Simon Kidston, who produced the Lamborghini Miura book. Simon, I've heard many people tell me about your long love affair with the Lamborghini Miura. At what point in that love affair did you have in your mind to produce a book on the car?
Probably took about 10 years, Ben. I was gathering information since I started out, even before I started out in the classic car business when I was 21. Having seen, of course, the Italian job, like everybody. And eventually I thought, well, I'm gathering all this information. What am I actually going to do with it? And so at that point I thought, well, let's get an author on board and let's... well, actually I started out thinking, let's just do a register, which then became a book. But it only really started to gather pace when John Presnell, the author, came on board, maybe I suppose 7 or 8 years now, seven or 8 years ago. And Steve Wakefield, my colleague based in the UK, helped with the editing. In fact, did more than help. He was the driving force behind the book. My colleague Emanuele Collo in Geneva, in the Kidston office in Geneva, who, as the name suggests, is of course Italian, really got into the subject. He joined me straight from university 15 years ago. Now I'd say he knows more about Miuras than I do. And of course, being Italian and being passionate, he knows which archives to look in. He can cross-reference photographs, registration records, and all of those anarchy things that we get really excited about, but which, if you're going to do the job properly, you need to find out.
And so, from your vision of what the book would be, has the book delivered? Are you 100% thrilled with what was produced, and it's exactly as you had seen it many years ago?
I would say, first of all, the credit doesn't really go to me, it goes to the team of people around me. I had the idea, but they put it into practice. And I'm a difficult person to please, I'm a Virgo. So nothing is ever quite perfect, nothing is ever quite ready. It's one of the reasons why the book took so long. There's always one more photograph that you discover, one more piece of information, one more person that you interview. But yes, when I finally held the finished book in both hands, because as you know, it is that heavy last summer, I probably shed a tear. And yeah, I don't think in my wildest dreams I expected that it would be quite as comprehensive as it is. So for somebody who's never entirely satisfied, yeah, mission accomplished.
And how do you feel now that the Miura book is trading for 10 times its original price?
I keep on pointing that out to my wife, who said to me, a Miura book? Who's going to buy that? On just one car? And you want to charge how much for it? Oh, we're going to have the house cellar full of books for years to come. Which just goes to show, don't necessarily listen to your wife's advice on motoring matters, and that we know a lot about the price of cars and nothing about the price of books. That's your department.
Exactly. And the register, I have to say, I was thrilled when I first saw the register. It's the most fantastic book. Were you as pleased with how that turned out?
Yes, I was. That again is very much Emanuele's work. He's been spending, especially during COVID, probably 4 hours every morning in the office on Skype with Steve Wakefield in the UK, cross-referencing, going through car after car after car. Now, we've sold quite a few Miuras over the years, both in my previous career as an auctioneer and since I've had my own company some 16 years ago. So that already gives us a good starting point, but we certainly haven't sold all 762 cars. But we have been lucky enough during those years to handle probably the most significant Miuras in the world, the Shah of Iran's SVJ, the last SVJ, the Corsican one, the Miura Roadster, and so on and so forth. And so every time you handle a car of that significance and value, you spend a lot of time researching it.
Yeah.
But can you believe that I first sold the Shah of Iran Miura when it came out of Iran in the SPJ in 1997, so near as damn it 25 years ago. And it's only during the research for this book, and not even the early research, the late research of this book, that we actually found a photograph of the Shah with the car, thanks to a French colleague in my office who discovered it in a mainstream agency that had taken the photograph of the Shah on the runway of Zurich Airport with all of his entourage around him and all the bodyguards' cars and the Mercedes and the American cars and the Rolls-Royce Corniche behind with red police lights, of course, and lots of burly men and glamorous women with the Lamborghini Miura. And the Swiss newspaper was most obsessed about the fact that he didn't have license plates on it. But those are the kind of real, as you know, you're a publishing guru, those are the moments that give you real satisfaction because you've looked for something for years and years and years, like being a gold prospector, I suppose, and then finally you find it. And there have been a few moments like that with this book.
Well, the register is selling. I knew you were a bit sceptical about how the register would sell, but it's selling very, very quickly. And I also believe when that sells out, the price will skyrocket. So people better buy that if they want to buy it at the retail price.
Well, I wish I'd kept some editions myself.
Exactly.
You know, we've, as you know, we sold out of Miura, the main book, very, very quickly, 6 days, and I believe it's selling for something like 10 times the list price from just a year ago. It makes car appreciation seem tame in comparison.
It does. Why do you think the Lamborghini Miura was so unloved for so many years?
I think, like a lot of cars, people have to feel that the person who owns it doesn't own it because that's all they can afford. They can afford anything and they choose this. And that fate used to befall most supercars when they were second-hand. Same thing with even a Ferrari GTO in the late 60s. I think the longest standing owner of a GTO paid $7,500 for it in 1967 because it was useless and just a second-hand old racing car.
Exactly.
And Miuras were owned frequently, and that is cited in the book, as you will know, as the reason why Ferruccio Lamborghini and the sales director wanted to stop production, because they felt that old second-hand Miuras, early cars, were falling into the wrong hands, petty criminals and just not very desirable people, and that they wouldn't cast a good light on the image of Lamborghini. Although I have to say Lamborghini, particularly as of late, hasn't always worried too much about who buys their cars. But when a car makes the transition from being just second-hand to being collectible and the right people buy it, and that's very much the case with another seminal supercar, the McLaren F1, people care who else is seen in cars of that type. And when the Miura made that transition, I remember 30 odd years ago, a client said to me, "Oh, Miura's, that's only a nightclub owner's car or a hairdresser's car." And of course now every great collection wants to have a Miura in it.
And that you've been at the real forefront of that because you had the vision of what the car was.
I'd like to agree with you and say vision. I was just enthusiasm. I just loved the car because of the film. I grew up in Italy. Even though the Miura was not a car, the last cars came out when I was, in fact that's not true. I was born in '67, so I'm about the same age as a Lamborghini Miura, but I only got interested in Lamborghinis during the Countach era. That was the car that I dreamt of. It wasn't a Miura. It was only thanks to the Italian job, and even then, not when the film came out, but 10 years later that I got into it. But it was enthusiasm for the car that drove it. I can't say to you now that I thought it was going to go up in value like that I thought it was going to become such a collector's item. When I bought my first Miura, my current Miura, I should say, actually 25 years ago, I said to my wife, it's a Miura that's come up for sale. I'd really, really love to own it. Would you mind if I bought it? And she said to me, look, I can tell you I'll tell you afterwards. She said to me, look, if you can pay for the children's education and if you agree to sell it, if you ever need to fund basic things like that, then you have my blessing. And so I did it, and as it happened, but I had no idea, it turned out to be a good investment, and it cost me £79,000. And I still have it.
I remember in the 90s being at a Monaco auction. I had the money in my account and I was the underbidder on a Miura, not an S or an SV, but just a standard Miura, and it sold for £40,000.
That doesn't surprise me. It was probably an auction that I organised.
And I kicked myself
well,
every day.
My first Miura, which was a right-hand drive SV, which I bought in April '96, cost me £36,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
The stupid thing is that I sold it when I bought my current black one in '98, because I thought it's far too expensive. I couldn't afford to keep both. Of course, who knew, right?
Exactly. I'm just hoping the same will happen to Lotus Esprit Turbos.
In 1981, if you'd asked me what was my dream car, well, my dad was buying a new BMW 635. BMW 635. No, for the same price you could buy a Lotus Esprit Turbo, of course, from Fiore's only.
Exactly.
But of course, even the earlier ones, the Series 1 cars from 1970, 77?
Yeah.
Like the Spy Who Loved Me car. Ultra collectible now.
Good, because I own one, so that's good. Anyway,
But if you find the ones from the movie, call me,
I
because
don't
I'm
have
a
that.
fan.
PPW 508 or something
With
like
an
that.
R at the end.
That's right.
That's the one.
Thank you very
Ben,
much.
it's a pleasure, and thank you very much for all of your support.
Not a problem.
It's enthusiasts and tastemakers in the motoring world like you that encourage us to do what we do. So
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me at the Royal Automobile Club for the Motoring Book Awards 2021. I would also like to congratulate the following winners. The winner of Motorsport Book of the Year below £50 went to Tom Christensen for Mr. Le Mans. The winner of Motoring Book of the Year below £50 went to Andy Plum for Tipping Point, Designing a Great British Underdog. The winner of the Graham Robson Award for Best Debut Author went to Tom Fryers for Crosley, The Rise of the Side Valves. And finally, a thank you to the runners-up, organisers, judges and readers of the books who make this event possible. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.